Oh, beautiful human, but I am back. Welcome to Erotic Lessons. I am your host, Lena Queen, where I am talking about all things desirability, self worth, and the erotic. And so I am going to post twice weekly and do it live as well, Sundays and Wednesdays. And so I took time off because I was also thinking about too, is like, all right, sustainability wise, because I am showing up recovering from my burnout in a place where I am not going to repeat old patterns of harm. And so I had to think about how am I going to show up in this space. And so I'm going to take the cue from pop culture, pop pop culture, podcast culture, and do seasons, right? And so I'm going to continue to give the seasons that I need to give, and I will pick up again later this winter. And so I'm going to go ahead and give us today, and then we're going to pick up again later in the fall. How about that? Because I'm learning how to do this podcast thing. I'm coming from like old blog talk world where, you know, it was a mic and it was me and a former co-host and it was Neek, the love coach. And so I was out there just giving advice about sex, love, relationships, and the love in between. Because at the end of the day, that is really what we're all searching for, right? Right. We're searching to experience love in a way that makes us feel whole and happy and connected and affirmed. And we deserve it. What ends up getting in the way is the things that ends up getting in the way, right? Like life, capitalism, and oppression. Yes, because I think here's the other thing too. I was struggling the last couple of weeks about even how to show up in the space because I was like, I'm trying to fit into a box I liberated myself from. And so different energy. I'm not going to perform, and I'm going to encourage you not to perform in a place to be loved, to already know that you are loved, and to start with that center. Like, I had to find my center in this new space as I evolve, because I'm also coming from a place of desire, right? I want to be in this space. I want to show up differently. I want to show up in a way that leaves me capacity for the rest of my life. And so today, what we're going to go ahead and talk about is a little bit of how desirability is showing up. Like I said, pop culture and politics. And so let's start off with, I believe, a lot of folks, and I just saw Hope Giselle speak on it as well, which is Snoop Dogg talking about he did not understand why LGBTQ representation was everywhere and how it was actually showing up everywhere. And he went to go to movies with his son, and now he's scared of going to the movies because with his grandson, because he didn't know how to explain to his grandson two moms and a baby. And I'm quite literally like, is this the same Negro who was like, bitches ain't shit but hoes and tricks, and created a entire persona, pimp persona, while also being married? And I come from a place, and it was not ethical non-monogamy that he was exercising. And we can talk about, oh, that's private, that's their business. But here's what I so understand too: ethical non-monogamy is about dignity. And so the fact that this man in this age, and it's in this age, all of a sudden really wants to understand, can't understand how to articulate how love shows up in the world, and cannot articulate sex as in behavior outside of his own understanding for his own pleasure. And that is what's happening. I am 51 years old. I remember I was pregnant when the Chronic dropped, right? When Dr. Dre Chronic dropped, and I remember looking at my children's father, who was like all into the lyrics, and how disrespected I felt when I'm thinking I'm carrying your child, and if bitches ain't shit but hoes and tricks, then what am I? And it was a very vivid memory, because of a very impactful time in my life about the influence of music on people when the person who was citing those lyrics wasn't the person that I knew, right? But I digress. And he and I are good. He and I have been good. And like, he's an amazing human being. Again, we're in our 50s. We grow the fuck up. Um, and so I think something to be mindful of as we see this fascist regime double down on anti-LGBTQ rhetoric, they have to help you find an enemy so that way you don't see themselves as an enemy. So stop being a fool first, right? Again, I'll be 52 September 3rd. I grew up, my adulthood was in the 90s. I had my baby 93. My adulthood was in the 90s. And so it was the bad boy culture. It was the Ja Rule and 50 Cent thing. Well, no, that was a little bit early. That was later in 2000. But it was all of that. It was the how to be a player, right? It Freaknik, right? Like Uncle Luke. I get, and let's also talk about the pipeline of asexuality or conservatism as Black folks get older. And I'm talking about the Black folks that are not in the church, because then we can also talk about, when it comes to Black women, the pipeline to newly saved to mother of the church, and how that pipeline of respectability asexualizes Black women and doesn't allow us permission to be sexual beings. And the only time we're able to be sexual beings, it is in response to a cisgender man's sexual pleasures, never for our own. And so for Snoop Dogg or anyone, honestly, who wants to use respectability politics to police other people's ability to love, to be loved, is immature, is harmful, and is oppressive, colonized. There's so many other ways, so many other things. But again, you know, Black men, I love. I have a daddy and a brother I love dearly. But I'm talking about the culture of Black men. Love of Shannon Sharp, protective of him almost. Love of R. Kelly, protective. Like, y'all are doubling down on R. Kelly. You're doubling down on the college. You're doubling down on people who have caused harm to Black culture, to Black sexuality, and not protective. And the protective responses become trauma responses because Black women have to either asexualize ourselves, hypersexualize, or hyper. I hate the word hyper. Asexualize, as in we have to remove being a sexual being, or be so much in control of our sexual being that is perceived as pathological, therefore hypersexualized, when it's not. It really is a reclamation of our erotic self, our spiritual self, our emotional self, our sexual self, to say that it can't be policed by other people's expectations. So, what are the erotic lessons? Pick one. Pick one. But Black women, Black queer folks, hear me. Hear me. As a Black person who will be 52 years old in several days, who is also queer, who came out late in life, who has had a job, who has been consensually unmarried, because that's not a desire I wanted when I really checked in, if I wanted that desire. I am going to encourage you to define what love feels like and looks like for yourself, and to recognize that those that you may want to love you may not have the capacity, the mental or emotional space, the capability, they don't have the skills, or the desire, they simply don't want to. This does not mean you were not worthy of love. It means that you're being discerning about whose love you want to receive. It means being discerning about who gets access to your love. Got it? Your self-worth has nothing to do with their ability to love or not love. That is them. And so as we hear Snoop talking to his grandson, talking and not raising, that's the other thing too, bro. When the different parenting is not simply procreation. Parenting is leadership. Parenting is teaching. Parenting is responsibility. Parenting is ownership. Parenting is accountability. Parenting is not just position of authority and power. It is a responsibility to that power that folks need to have. That folks need to have. And so what he has done is left a huge gap in his grandson's understanding of love and the world simply because he's homophobic and he has an aversion to love outside of his understanding of love. And that he also has such a limited and narrow view of love that he thinks sex is love. That sexuality is only sexual orientation or sexual behavior, which is a very patriarchal, colonized way of being. Bro, you're oppressed. And as someone said, he needs not to worry about what queer folks are doing, but how is he going to justify to his grandson of, of being close to a racist president, of saying color doesn't matter? And we know how he, no, how he has treated his family publicly outside of his sons, how he treated the women is, doesn't seem very loving, nurturing, right? It is not. Parenting is character. Who are you when no one is around? Parenting is not posturing. Y'all forget kids grow up, and adult kids can choose to have you in their life or not. And adult kids will go find the gaps. Don't we? We find the gaps. We fill the gaps that our parents miss, intentionally and unintentionally. And so I hope for his grandson, who may have friends who have two moms, who may have teachers or doctors or librarians or service providers who have two moms or two dads or no moms or no dads, because folks can lose them, they can be adopted. Folks can have alternative ways other than sexual intercourse to have babies. In vitro fertilization is a thing. This reversion to anti-intellectualism, to not understanding that you can be a crypto king, but not understand how technology and people evolve as a thing. Really fucking sad. So let's move on. Erotic lessons. I often use professional use of the self as a way of having people understand I'm not just coming from a place of expertise, I'm coming from a place of lived experience. And that I don't give advice I haven't used. And that the advice that I give that I haven't used is always informed by others who have evidence-based ancestral ways of understanding what they're doing. Um, and I understand consent, that you can take what's impactful and leave the rest, or you can reject it all. And so what I shared about desirability in politics and Calvis Brotus understanding, limited understanding of sexuality. Take it for what you needed. In politics, desirability in politics. Delaware has passed their social work interstate compact. Usually, once a state passes their interstate compact, it takes about 1 year for infrastructure to become available. So, why? Because it's capitalism and everything needs a structure. And so they need to collect those fees on those licensing. And as someone who is licensed in Delaware and New Jersey, both of those states are part of the interstate compact. We still have to wait for the infrastructures and the fee scales and all those good things, the team to be created and to exist. I hope this is good things that is going to come for us while being mindful how the current administration is um, overstepping their executive authority to impact people's ability to access healthcare, equitable quality healthcare, and how it is causing a major, major burnout impact on healthcare providers. And so I just read how healthcare providers, oh, anesthesiologists, and nurse anesthesiologists. Most anesthesiologists, those are the individuals that give you the medication before you go into any surgery. Like 60% of them are of the age 50 at 55 or older, and so there's going to be a huge workforce that's actually going to be retiring soon, and we do not have the ability to manage to replace those individuals. uh, Burnout is absolutely a thing, and so I want to invite you to to take part of the resources that I have available at Eros Spirituality Center, where I support survivors and healthcare providers burnout. Um, this week I have my 7-day erotic healing practice that is going to be an email practice showing up. Also have 2 workshops that are actually showing up: erotic liberation and eros spirituality, where I really talk about more of like how can we understand energy work as spirituality from a very queer and trans affirming space. I got sneeze. Woo! I know the first time I'm gonna hear. Anyway, um, I think that's all I have for now. I wanted to come back because I wanted to clean this up, and also stay tuned because this is going to get better. So until next time, I will talk to you soon.